Welcome to the LegalTube podcast, presented by LawyerLocate.ca. Join us as we explore the latest trends, strategies, and tools for promoting your legal practice in the digital age. Hosted by Mark Robbins, CEO of LawyerLocate.ca, LegalTube, and Digital MSpace, where we're all about legal marketing online for Canadian lawyers. Let's dive in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to LegalTube podcast that's proudly presented by LawyerLocate.ca. Today, we're very excited to have as our guest Calgary lawyer Jeff Kahane. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm good, although we usually go with Kahane.
Hey, I stand corrected. We'll make sure we don't make that mistake again.
Although in the islands we go with Kahane, but
okay.
It just depends.
Well, that might be. I might want to go with Kahane. That would be much more fun.
I like it. Yeah.
So, Jeff, tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice, and what's exciting for Kahane Law.
Sure. So, I'm residential real estate. I love it. It's interesting. It's fun. It's dynamic. And it's happy law. So I really have always enjoyed that. As a firm, we're full service, so we're able to help all our clients and support them through other parts of their life. But my personal love is residential real estate.
Cool. And now, how long has it been since you got your call?
Oh gosh, 2001. So it's been a few years now.
Yeah, for sure. You don't look old enough to be that call that early.
Yeah, I'm a grandpa now.
Wow, congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah, so if that's the indicator, I'm there.
So we got to know you because you're a member of LawyerLocate.ca and have been for many years. And as a result of that, I started to pay attention to you before Lawyer Locate kind of dove into the video side of marketing for our lawyers. And that was something I got into at a very early time. I actually, we bought the URL LegalTube.ca probably 20 years ago had no idea, but I said, I think I want to have that. But I noticed that one of the things that caught my attention with you years ago, long before anybody else was really doing it in Canada, was you were doing a lot of video content. How did that come about for you?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One, I know that the second biggest search engine in the world is YouTube, and Google owns YouTube. So it's always good to be able to have that. And, I saw out there a market where most lawyers who have a video, I'm trying to think of a nice way of saying they're a little boring. So I wanted to liven them up. Originally, my thought was to make it a little Bill Nye-esque, like Bill Nye the Science Guy, and just have them a little more dynamic. But they've been fantastic. I think we've got 250,000 people watching them, and that's pretty good for like a firm in Calgary. I mean, we're not in the hub of the YouTube craze for stuff, but it's been good.
Yeah, you're right, and it is important that people understand, especially lawyers, and that vertical in Canada. I'm always amazed at the number of lawyers that just don't understand video, and they're hell bent on my blog, my blog, my blog, my blog. The biggest problem, because Lawyer Locate had been a Google partner for many, many years. We just recently stepped aside from that, but we got benefit of a lot more stats and detail about, like you said, YouTube. And YouTube right now, with a demographic of 14 to 40, is actually the #1 search engine, not Google. So YouTube, you're right, is a very valuable tool for putting information out. It's sad to say, I'm an older guy in my generation, it's sad to say that people don't read anymore. And the attention span, you just have to look at TikTok. What's the attention span? 3.5 seconds. You don't get them in that length of time, then they're scrolling.
Yeah, so no, it's absolutely true. And our biggest consumer of our videos are real estate lawyers outside the city of Calgary, although some also, where it's their starting point for legal research.
Oh,
so the intent of them wasn't for the legal community, but when we opened our office in Edmonton, one of the first comments I got from people out there was, "Oh yeah, we know you. We use your videos all the time." Like,
what? That's
yes. Yeah, that works.
That's the type of responses you want to get. And then if you've got that many subscribers, that's amazing. I mean, you're right. For a Canadian lawyer in Calgary and in Midwest Canada, to get 250,000 followers.
Not followers.
Oh.
No, I wish that would be good. Those like views of the video.
The views, even that.
But to me, that's like, I mean, who's watching them?
Right. I mean, Jeff, okay, so when we started doing live, we did a show, we created a show for a family law lawyer in Toronto, in Markham. And the show was called Ask Andrew. It was Andrew Feldstein. And he originally started the show on Rogers Cable. And it was a typical Rogers Cable show, boring, stuffy, stiff. And we took over the show, and I said, first thing we're going to do is we're going to change your set, what you're doing.
Did he have
And
law books in the background?
oh yeah, it was classic. It was classic. And then, he wanted he insisted on a green screen. So we got his green screen. We actually physically created his studio. And then we started the show. And one of the things was kind of our headbutting moment at the beginning was he insisted he wanted a script and teleprompter. And I said, no, absolutely not. Oh, I've got you. I said, no. I said, here's why. You want your videos to be viewed. People want to see you being yourself and they want to see the mistakes. I won't edit out the mistakes because I know that gets people's attention because they think, oh, it's just not another stiff lawyer talking in a language that I don't understand
You're a real
about
person.
topics.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
And
we
that's
we
the
have
whole
our own
point.
green screen, and one
Right.
take, we just run them, and I
Yeah.
think it's just people appreciate it, and that's the feedback I always get. Is in fact, I have one group of real estate agents that love when there's a mistake.
Oh,
they're on it, they're excited by it. They're like, "Oh,
yeah.
Jeff made a mistake," and it's like maybe you pick the wrong word and correct it right away, but it's
Right.
yeah, they like it.
Oh yeah, I mean that's been the basis of all the shows we do now. So we do one for a employment law lawyer in Ontario, Stuart Rudner. So it's called Fire Away. So we've been doing his for 7 years. So he does a show once a month, it's a half hour, multiple guests and that, and he's this particular lawyer took to it. Maybe by the second show, you'd think he'd been a pro at hosting a show for years and years and years. So I'm always taken aback by how quickly, when a lawyer embraces the idea of doing a live stream show online, how they handle themselves. Because you'd think naturally, Jeff, you're a lawyer. General public's kind of assumption is, well, you're paid to talk, so you should be very comfortable talking. The truth of the matter, from my experience, is not all lawyers are very comfortable talking to a camera.
Very true. Yeah, very, very true. I do a lot of education, whether it's online or in person. So, like yesterday, I had about 200 people. Over the weekend, I chaired a 2-day conference for the Law Society for real estate lawyers across the province. And that was, I think we had 120, 150 people out at that conference. And I love it. Like, to me, that is my drug. I don't need drugs, but like just having a crowd, and you're, whether it's the TV or video or whatever, you're integrating with them and wanting to keep people engaged, whether it's however you're doing it. But obviously, you want to give good information in a way that people is going to grab their attention and lets them absorb it. So, life before law with school teacher, it's not really a far step from that.
Excellent. Now, you're not a small firm because you have several offices throughout Alberta. Just curious, how many lawyers are currently with your firm?
We're at 27.
Okay, so now do your other lawyers and associates, do they step out and into the marketing side for themselves, or is that all on you?
Not really. I'd say 95% me. I would love for them to just do, like 5%. The most that I typically get is just they do a good job for people, so people come back, which is fantastic, and that's what we want to deliver. But in terms of different forms of marketing, I do most of it. There's some
Right.
that I try and encourage them to write articles for our website because, again, the more you add in terms of content, the better it is for your SEO. And so we do that, but for the most part, it's me.
Okay. So, and I take it that from the beginning, it was always you were the creative person in the sense that when did you see, because I know you were doing blogging and I know you still do blogging, when did you see that kind of door open to say, hey, there's more to this than just blogging? Video might be something I should be looking at.
Um, oh, years and years ago,
Right.
I mean, I've been the one who built our website, and I've done 90% of the content on our website. And so I taught myself SEO, really, really enjoyed that. It's kind of like a Sudoku process where there's all these different factors that play in, but it's like
Yeah.
2000 and some are contradictory. So you're trying to line them all up so that, at the end of the day, 45 minutes after putting together a new web page, it'll go to the first page of Google within a day or two, and then be revenue producing within a week or two. And so it's changed. It's in constant flux, which keeps it interesting. But that was sort of my catalyst, and then was the video to augment that, and just as another little piece that contributes into it. It's kind of like a diamond. If you have a diamond and it's just one facet and cut in half and that's it, it's not going to
Right.
shine very much. But if you have all the different, like the way it's cut, the shape of the diamond, the clarity, the occlusions, like all that stuff, it builds something that will shine that really works. And that's kind of been the fun part for me.
That's great. And it's funny you talk about SEO because Natalie has her reputation before she started Lawyer Locate was she's actually a really great organic SEO person. We've never, for example, with Lawyer Locate, never paid for a Google ad ever. Uh, that said, the recent changes to the algorithms where Google now is making things address driven, so specific to geography, that becomes a challenge for national companies like Lawyer Locate because our search result has dipped because we don't have offices in every province. And so now Google's algorithm is punishing us because we're not able to have an address affiliated with each one of our offices, even though we are a national company. And it's one that we're wrestling with Google to find out, like, you're not addressing. There's a lot of companies out there that are national companies that have one office in Ontario, but they're dealing right across Canada. So it
And
becomes
the converse is true too. So, for instance, you'll have like a plumber that doesn't have an office. They're basically operating at their house, but they don't want people going there,
right.
and it hurts them compared to some of the bigger companies. But they should all be available if they're providing a good service. So
Exactly. Exactly.
that is a tough part. We have paid for our ads, but for the most part, it's just nominal because it just contributes, one more piece. But we'll get between 2,500 and 3,500 phone calls and emails each month organically off our website.
Interesting, because I'm having a discussion that's a little bit off topic, but it does marry in. So, are you using any type of software for tracking your intakes and then the progress of the file?
No, we track it at our front desk. So we have like all the emails that come in and all the phone calls, we track by area of law
Right.
and the source that came in, whether it was a referral, whether it was Google, YouTube, like
Right.
so that's
So
what we
it's
track.
a lot of Q&A on the upfront when the call or the email comes in.
Yes and no, because the emails I've allocated on our website a different email address for each page. And so they will default come in like we have, I could just make it up. I could say Mark Robbins at KahaneLaw.com and I'll get your emails. I could
Right.
say LegalTube at KahaneLaw.com. I will
Right.
get those emails. I don't have to do anything. So that's the default. And so that allows us to see, oh, these emails coming in. This is the page that people are finding. This is the page that people want. It lets us tweak things a little bit better and just be more efficient with them and quantify, because sometimes it's really
Right.
hard to quantify these things without having fake phone numbers where you're tracking
Right.
that way or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
We've gotten involved with a company called Lawmatics, similar to what Clio does, but it is more specifically targeting just your intake and then following the file right through to retainer. And then it's actually very automated, and once it's set up for each individual practice, it's the flow is brilliant, and you can get all the information on, like you said, where it's coming from, what your cost, what your ROI was on that particular potential client when they signed, and comes right through that flow. And it's actually very reasonably, it's a monthly, everything's monthly subscription these days, but it's a very reasonable thing. Clio is the one that I guess most lawyers I know in Canada tend to follow or get involved with. And I found that Clio was a bit pricey and not, they're trying to be everything
Yeah.
and not specific to the main. And the intake to me is probably one of the most important things, other than the success of closing on the file, which is another conversation that we probably should have, because my experience has been with a lot of lawyers, especially associates, is they're great lawyers, but as I've said, to much to my chagrin, that law degree didn't come with a minor in business.
Right.
And It's, I've given many talks in Ontario at a couple of the universities at York and that on that particular subject. And I've gotten in trouble because I've opened my talk by saying, York University and Oz is doing you a disservice, students. And why is that? It's very simple. They're not incorporating a minor in business. So when you come out of here with your law degree, you think I hang my shingle, it will come. Nobody. You're
Yeah.
walking into the most competitive profession there is known to man in North America, and you have to learn how to sell.
Not car dealerships.
No,
They,
no, not anymore.
they seem to be pretty good that way.
Yeah, not anymore. You can buy your car online now, and I think that's another topic. I mean, I think car dealerships are going the way of the dodo. I think that the day is very close where you will not see a dealership anymore. You'll see a service center because that's where car
They make their
makes
money.
their money,
Yeah.
and you'll have a sample of each vehicle,
Well, I hope
right?
not, because I like that thing that goes like this in the parking lot. I mean,
Well,
that
what
every time I drive past one, it's like, oh, I gotta get a car.
well, you've not got one in front of your office yet?
Actually, I just bid on one this week at a local auction. So, like,
Oh, cool.
no, I do not have one yet, but I'm toying with it, not for the office, just for fun.
So circling back, so when it comes to the close or to get the retainer, I've always often said, and I want to see what your experiences are for yourself and then with your associates, is that the hardest thing for I think anybody to do, whatever your profession is, you're selling cars, is to ask for the check. People seem to have a real difficulty with saying, "Okay, we're done. Here's the retainer, and I need $5,000 to get moving on your file."
See, we don't have that problem. So
Okay,
in litigation where you're getting retainers, we just don't work unless we have money in place.
right,
For real estate, we're getting the money either as part of money coming in for the purchase or from the sale proceeds. For like some litigation type matters, like personal injury, for example, then we're getting in from the money in from the insurance company, taking our fees, and then sending the rest to the
right,
client. So for the most part, it is rare where we have an issue with that. Like our AR is not huge. Um, wills is one where we don't even ask for a retainer, but the number of times where we prepare a will and the people just ghost us is so small. It's like it's not even worth at this point to, get a deposit or something down.
right,
Like I think if you do a good job for people, people don't mind paying you. And if you're
right,
comfortable with the work that you're doing, then you're not going to have an issue. The number one complaint about lawyers is that they don't return phone calls. And so when people are calling, just kicking tires, like, they're just calling on price. I'll say there's three things you want to pay attention to when you pick a real estate lawyer. One, get an all-inclusive price, not a price plus disbursements. If that's what you do for a living, you should be able to figure out how many couriers you're going to need, right? So
right,
it shouldn't be that hard. Two, get someone who knows real estate law, like any area of law. I'd rather have someone who spends their focus on that, not someone who dabbles here and there or the other way. And three, see how long it takes them to call you back when you're trying to give them work. So if it takes 2 or 3 days for them to return your call when you're trying to give them money, essentially, how frustrating are you going to be if you need possession of your home and you can't reach anyone?
right.
So, like, I just think that ties in. And if you do a good job for people, they don't have an issue paying for a service that they receive that they feel they got value for.
Excellent. That's good sound advice for lawyers coming up. Now, I know you're a full service law firm, but I know you say you specialize in real estate. But in your areas like family law and that, because that's the areas where you do tend to see you'll get tire kickers, you're right. But that's the area where you need to get a retainer because of the volatility of the nature of the file. And that's where what I'm speaking to, teaching lawyers how to actually close on that retainer. And that becomes a challenge.
Yeah, and I think junior lawyers have a harder time with that. Like it's hard for them to internally rationalize the worth that they bring to people. And I see that shift over time in terms of how comfortable they are. Junior lawyers will often underbill. They'll like write stuff off. They'll self-edit because they don't understand the worth that they bring. Because a good lawyer is going to save you money. Like they're like long term, they're going to save you headache and money and emotional stress, even if it costs money, but it's part of a big process. I can't say I love
Exactly.
the litigation process. It's not for me. I will tell people when they're calling us for litigation work, like, you know, this doesn't make financial sense for you to pursue. If you do, we're happy to, but you're
Right.
better off buying a new boat or getting a hobby Because at the end of the day, I got to respect the guy I see when I shave in the morning. So it's
Yeah.
just part of what I think is important, and I wish it was across the industry.
Oh, that's, you know what, again, it's refreshing to hear this type of talk, because I think that I think far too many lawyers, and it goes across the board from my experience, and it's not whether they're new, whether they've been around for 40 years, they forget that important fact, and that's you got to get up every morning and look in the mirror.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
And
know,
don't come from a place of scarcity. I mean, there
yeah,
are more than enough files in any area of law that you can't do them all.
right,
And, if you're coming from a place of scarcity, then, you're always trying to like find a dollar here and a dollar there, whatever, which is disingenuous. And the clients see that. And I don't think it does anyone any good. Like we had one of our lawyers in family law said he was shocked. Family law was a little bit slower. And around the same time, there was someone selling SEO services to other family lawyers saying, oh, look at Kahane. They're getting 40% of the referrals for family law, Google in the industry. And they were saying that, if you do this one thing, you're going to have the same results when it's not. It's like many
yeah,
pieces. But the lawyer said, Jeff, like my colleagues downtown are really kind of struggling and scared where the next files are coming on. So they feel compelled to like, you know, encourage fighting, spending $10,000 in legal fees for a $5,000 bump for the client. He says, here, when I need referrals, I let reception know. They start sending them to my phone. And within 3 days, I've got like a whole new slew of people. Like we're in family, especially, we're referring out maybe like 20, 25 files a week at that point. So it's really like I think perception of the lawyer themselves is key for a good client experience also. Like when you're
right.
done. I was told you got so many deals in you when they're done, like you can't even pretend. And so I think we have an obligation to ourselves and our clients to, just be attuned to that.
Yeah, that's again, that's great advice. That's a marvelous way to run your practice. So coming back to marketing, and we covered a bunch of things from your video approaches. You do your own SEO, which I find that fascinating, because it's not as I tell Natalie, who full disclosure is also my life partner. Um, I just anything comes up about SEO, I just go, okay, it's above my pay grade. Natalie, what do we do now? Right. So I mean, I think that's kind of cool that you've driven yourself into that. You built your own website, and I would assume you do your own updates on the website, because if
Yeah.
you have to
And
be doing that constantly.
just WordPress. It's just so it's really
Yeah,
easy.
it's a WordPress.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's
yeah.
plug and play. Other than sometimes when the plugins start to mess up.
Yeah, and the only down part of WordPress, it's a little slower than some of the other platforms. It's
Yeah.
more versatile, but the slowness Google doesn't like, so you're trying to balance the two. It's just part of the game.
Yeah, we on our with Digital M Space, so that's Natalie's website design development and SEO, and we do social media management. But that is one of the things. But and then Natalie weighs it back and forth, same as you, saying, but you know what? We can do more with WordPress than we can with some of the other platforms. And I think if you learn I know video slows it down, so we avoid putting video on landing page, because that's a big problem. And we had several clients say, "Oh, why can't my video be right there front and center?" Because it's going to slow down, and people are not going to stay,
Yeah.
and that becomes important.
Well, and Google won't bring them to there even. So at one point, I developed my own bot for answering questions, and people type in their questions. It worked really well in that someone have a question about fees or
Right,
prices or like areas law, whatever, and it would give them the answers, and then it would lead them to a person if it was required, or if not, great. But it slowed us down. I think it was about a second, or maybe not
right,
even a second, or just a little bit more than a second. But that little time, like you start adding those up, like you want to optimize your images, you want to like be careful with your videos, and even things like that, the plugins that you add in can slow you down. You just got to be cautious.
right. And now you touch on something that was kind of maybe near the end of our talk. AI is here. Um, we use it. We're in all levels of our business, from Lawyer Locate to the referral side. We are using AIs to do content for us. We're using AI for this show. We use Opus AI to take this show, and it will produce 35 clips that are 30 seconds or less, and they're all ranked by percentage, and it'll explain. The AI tells us exactly why this is ranked number one, and And it does all that in about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on AI from a marketing perspective for a law firm? And then I want to ask you a follow-up question to that.
Sure. So I think it is a useful tool, but at this stage, it's not a replacement for anything in the legal world. Like it can certainly help with legal research, for instance, but it is not definitely not a replacement. AI has been known to just make things up. So if you're asking AI to create content, I suspect two things are going to happen. One, Google's going to be they're going to kind of demote people if they catch people using AI because it's different content than if you have an actual person who's putting it together, and it's user experience focused because they want to get good content answers. That's the whole purpose of Google. Um, that might change over time, but for right now, again, great tool, but I'm not using it to replace anything.
Okay, so when I say we use it for content, what we'll do is that, and what I've learned, because I'm the one that dove into it for our companies, is it's all about the prompt. And that's the challenge. Probably initially spend more time learning how to use prompts properly to get the content that's not just content to please me.
Yeah.
And then what we do after that is then we take that content and then we humanize it by editing. So we'll take that content and we'll replace some stuff that we think is just a little too pat and make it more human. So
Yeah.
far,
So
we
good
yeah,
tool, but not a
yeah,
replacement for the human being.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So my follow-up is then twofold, and you touched on a bit of it, is in Canada, because I find probably more so than the States, our law societies are stricter, certainly on the advertising and marketing side. But with AI, and now we see these AI platforms being, almost being advertised as you don't need a lawyer, you can use this AI and it'll answer all your legal questions. Um, I know in Ontario that's a no-no. You can't have any type of association or affiliation with that type of thing. But what are your thoughts on the AIs that are coming out now? That I know it's more American centric, but I have seen some that are dealing with Canadian law as far as getting legal advice from an AI.
Again, like my experience so far with it is that it can produce kind of a good guideline, but it's not producing something that I would rely on blindly. And I think that's where you run into problems. And as a lawyer, if you have that on your website to try and, attract people by giving them information through I think you have some risk. And certainly through your insurance, you could have some risk. I think in this world that we live in, there are many types of law. We have like YouTube law, we've got water cooler law, we've got American law, TV law, the actual law. And I think trying to get all your law, because remember, a lot of law is very, very situationally specific. So
Right.
you can't just like throw everything in because there's just too many variables that the courts would look at and that would distinguish it from another case or something like that to be able to get, this is what the answer is. I heard this quote recently and I quite like it. Like trying to use the internet for law would kind of be like trying to get all your calories from Hostess.
That's I like that. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, you're you're going to talk to yourself 20 years in the past with what you've learned about legal marketing, Jeff. What would you tell the 25-year-old Jeff he should be planning to do to start his practice?
I mean, that was only like 5 years or 7 years before I did. Um, I'm not sure I'd change anything. Like there's some little things here and there that I learned from that were, a waste. Like for instance, I once did those mail out things through Canada Post where you produce like the little cards and it goes out. And we did that for a while and it only paid for itself because the guy who is working the press to make those things called us for work. So like, but like really big picture, none of that really mattered. And I think
Right.
through experience, you grow and get knowledge. And so there's been nothing that I necessarily would have done differently. I think naming my firm instead of calling it Kahane Law Office, at one point that was a challenge because everyone expected me to be on everything. I would have been better off calling it like, I don't know, like paperclip law or
Right.
something more generic. But really, like in terms of the marketing, I think the things, even the things that didn't work, ended up working really well in other ways. And so I've been really happy with it, and I've enjoyed it. To me, that is, I'm not a externally motivated person. My whole life I've been like grades, I just never cared. I got 51 my first year of my undergrad. I ended up with the silver medal from law school from our graduating class. But intrinsically, internally, there's no emotional difference to me. Like I don't strive for it. And the same as like with dollars or anything like that. I just have to really love doing it. And so my path has given me that. Um, I know things I'm not good at. I'm not good at looking at like, what's this costing us? How do we make this more efficient, like cost wise? I had a 3-month period where I gamified it and enjoyed it, but it's just not for me. It's not for me.
Awesome. Just one second. I have an audio issue here. I just have to switch. I'm not
Can you
doing
hear me
well.
back there? Loud and clear.
Yeah. There we go. I'm back. So that's really great advice and great thoughts. So like to wind things up if we can today, Jeff, and I do this with every guest. So I'm going to give you two, actually. One is just your one piece of advice you would want to share with lawyers starting out.
Do what you love. And I mean that across the board, because you're going to be genuine, you're going to enjoy it, you won't work a day in your life. And so whether that's how you market or the type of law you do or the way you interact with clients, like make sure you find that niche that you just really enjoy. And law is so broad that there literally is something for everyone. You can pick. You don't get stuck in something just because that's what's there or it's responsible or whatever. Follow your heart, your guts. That's really gonna do you well across your career.
Excellent. And my last self-serving question is, and we opened the show by pointing out that aside from your practice areas and that you've been a longstanding member of LawyerLocate.ca, can you give us any thoughts on what that experience has been like for you?
Yeah, so we definitely get referrals every month. The cost is effective for the number of referrals we get. Like it works great that way. It also helps contribute to our other because again, the more sort of inbound links, the more stuff you have, the more Google likes it. So even if it's a small part, it's part of what builds like the other parts also. So just overall, it's been fine. Like it more than pays for itself. I don't believe in paying for something that only gives you revenue to match what you're spending because now you're just working for somebody else.
Right. That's terrific, Jeff. And thank you so much for the compliment. We do appreciate it. It's been 24 years now since Natalie Waddell created this little, as the Law Times called it in her first year interview, her dating service for lawyers and clients. So
Yeah.
we've come a long way from that. Again, Jeff, thank you so much for giving us your time. I really appreciate it. It's been a real pleasure having you on the podcast, and I hope to have you back again sometime very soon. It would be awesome.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
My pleasure. That's the show, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed it. Mr. Kahane can be reached. We'll be putting his information on the bottom here, and you can reach out to him for your real estate needs and any other legal matters that you need in Alberta. Once again, I like to steal from one of my clients' shows and remind you that if you're a lawyer and you think you need legal marketing advice, you probably do. And if you do, reach out to LawyerLocate.ca, Digital M Space, or LegalTube. We can help you in all areas of legal marketing. Thanks, everybody, for the show. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again next month.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the LegalTube podcast. Ready to take your legal marketing to the next level? Our show delivers expert insights and practical advice to help you succeed in today's competitive legal landscape. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, this podcast is for you. For more information, check out LawyerLocate.ca. And if you have any questions, get in touch with us. Thanks for listening.